Discover the latest health tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories. This is the Health Channel Podcast. Your journey to better health starts now.
Hi. Feeding your kids can be so difficult. We often hear the stories of breastfeeding versus bottle feeding, transitioning solids, the picky eater. What do we do? On this next episode, I'm going to answer all of your questions regarding breastfeeding versus bottle feeding, how to introduce solids, healthy snacks for your kids, and what the best practices are to ensure that your child receives the best nutrition on the next episode of Ask the Doc. Welcome to Ask the Doc, a show where we encourage you viewers to send in your questions so that I can answer them in real time. Hi, I'm Dr. Scarlet Constant, the founder of Constant Care Pediatrics. And today I'm going to answer your questions about feeding, nutrition, and all things surrounding getting our kids to eat. It looks like we have a question coming in right now from the All Health TV app. This is from Yuki. Hi, Dr. Constant. I've been breastfeeding my daughter soon for about 5 months now. Is it too early to start introducing solid foods? Yuki, that's a great question. So the recommendations, I know that before the recommendations were to start introducing solids around 3 or 4 months. Then we changed it to 6 months. And now what we are recommending in pediatrics is that there is a window between 4 and 6 months that you can introduce solids to your child. How do you decide when to do this? Well, what you want to do is look at your child's feeding cues, meaning, are they interested in food? When you're eating, do they look at your plate and look like they might want to taste it or maybe reach out for the food? Another sign is that maybe your baby is not being fully satisfied by just the breast milk. So after each feed, yes, they calm down, they're happy, but very soon after, it seems like they want something else, and it might not just be milk. You also want to make sure that your baby has very good head control. If your baby could be put into a high chair or a boppy or a feeding seat and hold their core body up straight and maintain their head for about 30 minutes or more, then your child is ready to sit in a chair and have solids. So if all of those things are there and you see that your child is really interested and just wants to experiment, then it's absolutely the time for you to introduce solids. With that being said, there's nothing wrong with your baby breastfeeding exclusively until 6 months of age before even introducing solids. Good luck soon. I hope that this works. The next question is coming in from the Facebook app. It's from Yasmin. Hello, doctor. We're starting to introduce solid foods to our son, Amir. Unfortunately, he's not embracing the new foods. How can we help him adjust to eating them? Also, how can we be sure he's getting enough nutrients? So Jasmine, to add on to what I was saying when I spoke to Yuki, really introducing solids initially, this is between 4 to 6 months, you're just introducing so that they can understand what it is, get an idea of the taste of foods, and learn the mechanics of swallowing. Initially, your baby is only drinking liquid, so they don't have the mechanics of chewing and swallowing and using their tongue to push the food back. So when we do introduce solids, this is just a practice time for them. It's not necessarily to replace milk or to get more nutrients or to build calories. So the first couple of months, it's just a fun introduction, 1 time a day, twice a day, maybe even 3 times a day. But if it's just once a day, it's perfectly fine. So if Amir is not interested just yet, stay with it. Introduce different things to him after 3 days. You can introduce something that might have a little more flavor and interest him a little bit more. And once he does get the hang of it and shows some interest and enjoys it, then you can start increasing the amount and the various times a day. But as far as worrying about nutrients and caloric intake on a full solid diet, that's really not going to happen until somewhere around the 12-month mark. I hope that answered your question. So now we have another question coming in, and that's from Manfredo. Dr. Constant, our toddler Luz is the personification of perfection, except when it comes to eating. As a result, my wife and I would love some healthy snack suggestions so we can ensure she's getting the nutrients she needs without the constant mealtime struggles. That's a great question, Manfredo. Here is a list of a couple of really great go-to snacks for your child, for your toddler. First, you want to give sliced fruit, such as apples or pears. Sliced fruit is great because they actually can hold it on their own. You're not actually feeding them. They can enjoy it. It's easy to bite. It's easy to chew so that they don't choke. A lot of parents are concerned about their toddler not having all of their teeth or maybe not being able to chew, but something like apples, especially pears, you can chew them perfectly fine with your gums and it's not a choking hazard. Whole grain crackers is also great because you really want to stay away from carb and like starchy crackers. So whole grain crackers are good. And again, you can bite them, you can chew them, but if they don't chew too well, at least they'll dissolve in the mouth. And again, it's not a choking hazard. Number 3, small cubes of cheese. Toddlers love cheese. What can I say? You've got your milk, so you've got your calcium intake. It tastes great. It's fun, easy to chew, very fun snack. Number 4, yogurt sticks. Who doesn't love yogurt? The kids love the taste of yogurt. And again, that's your milk intake again. So you've got your calcium and your vitamin D. It's a nice way for kids to, again, have something that they're holding, they're chewing on. If they're teething, it also helps. If you put them in the refrigerator, they have something that they can like chew on and that's very hard and soothing to the gums. So yogurt sticks are a great snack option. Veggies with hummus. That's another great way to introduce vegetables. It's a way to calm the teething gums of a toddler and to introduce a variety. So it's not necessarily just the fruit. Fruit has a lot of sugar, and sometimes what you want is a veggie and hummus to give them, the protein that they need. Smoothies are always fun. Everybody loves a smoothie. And then you can hide vegetables, fruits, anything you want, grains, oats, all the good things. You can just hide them in the smoothie and the children love it. But again, it goes back to drinking. So when we're introducing snacks to toddlers, we really like to try to get them to bite and chew. But every once in a while, it's okay to give them a little smoothie. Number 7, ants on a log. That is going to be your celery. So you'll have like little peanut butter on celery or banana with raisins on top. So you have like a celery stick, you put peanut butter, and then you line up the raisins on top. It's aesthetically pleasing. It's fun. It's got fruit. It's got protein. It's got veggie, everything that you need. So that's also a really fun snack to give your toddler. Welcome back. Looks like these questions just keep coming in. I know feeding is so difficult, especially when you have a picky eater. So send in as many questions as you can so that I can try to help guide you through this. So Avery just sent a question. Hi, Dr. C. My wife, Patrice, and I are about to become first-time parents. And our question is this: breast milk or formula? What's better for our newborns? The famous question. Okay, breast milk, of course, is favored. Right? This is the natural way. And we can bond with our children. We're lactating already. This is an innate behavior. You would always choose breast milk if you can. Breast milk has antibodies in it from the mother. So when you're breastfeeding, you're passing on these antibodies from your body to the baby's body. Now, with that said, those antibodies are limited. Yes, you get the antibodies from breast milk. However, they are not lifelong antibodies. They will dwindle down, which is why we still adhere to a vaccine schedule. But those first 3 months where you are getting the initial antibodies when you're breastfeeding, at least the baby is getting initial antibodies for those months before they're vaccinated. Yes, there are many advantages to breastfeeding, but not everybody can do it for various reasons. And that is, so what I mean by that is that you're not taking the lesser option by giving your baby formula. There isn't you're not defying your baby of something that they're not getting with breast milk. The only difference is they're not getting the antibodies. So if you do feed your baby formula, there are many formulas out there that are great and they emulate breast milk. They have all of the same composition minus the maternal antibodies. And in addition, they have added iron and vitamin D, which as women, we do not create. So those that are breastfed will need supplemental vitamin D. In the formula, you are getting iron, you're getting vitamin D, you're getting DHA, which is very important in omega-3. So there isn't there is a more favorable option, let's say, a more practical option but I wouldn't compare the two apples to apples and say there's a lesser or a worse option. I think that families need to choose what is best for them, what works for mom, what works for the whole family dynamic, and what makes them comfortable. Some people just are not comfortable breastfeeding, or it doesn't work, or the baby and the mother are not jiving together and the latch isn't there. All of these things are present and are factors in deciding whether or not you're going to breastfeed. So my advice to you is, sure, try to breastfeed. See if it's something that works for you, if you're happy with it. And if it isn't, then get formula. There's definitely there's nothing wrong with going to formula. Okay, it seems like we have another question coming in. It seems like a lot of you have questions. Izzy says, hey, Dr. Constant, there seems to be a difference of opinion on this topic. Should you give vitamin D to exclusively breastfed babies? Hi, Izzy. Yes. So as I mentioned before, formula has added vitamin D. Babies should get 400 units of vitamin D per day. A lactating female does not create that amount. Therefore, if you are exclusively breastfeeding, yes, you do need to supplement with vitamin D, 400 units per day. If you are supplementing with formula, and something about, I think it's about 1 to 2 bottles a day, then your child is getting enough vitamin D and you do not have to supplement with the vitamin D drops. In addition, after 6 months, when you introduce solids, your baby will get the vitamin D from other fruits and vegetables. So if you are exclusively breastfeeding, yes, you need to give your child 400 units of vitamin D per day. Okay, so we have another question that's in right now, and this question is from Juliet. Hi, Dr. Constant. We have 2 teenage scholar athletes, Petra and Pavel, in our house, and they're always looking for ways to enhance their performance in their respective sports. As such, they've expressed interest in specific diets like keto, vegan, paleo, and intermittent fasting. Is it okay for teens to follow those specific diets? And how do we ensure they get all of the necessary nutrients? Well, Juliet, my blanket statement about all of these diets is that if you're going to embark on one of these diets, you really need to understand what it entails. These kids have to study the caloric intake that they're going to get every day. They need to truly look for other resources of the protein and the nutrients that they need. And my concern is that it's very difficult for people to do that, especially a teenage child. It's very difficult to meal prep and plan and make sure you're getting the meals that will fulfill you for the day. A growing child needs almost 3,000 calories a day. That is a lot. So I get concerned when I hear about these diets because I don't know if they're actually, calorie counting, if they're making sure they're getting the meals they need, if they're researching, finding out where they're deficient, what they're making up as far as vitamins, as far as essential nutrients. These kids are still going through puberty. They're still having growth spurts. It's a very difficult time. And the last thing I would want is for carb cutting or cutting meals, intermittent fasting, because the body still has a very high metabolic rate and requires a lot of fuel. So I am not in favor of these types of diets unless there is somebody guiding them. Maybe there's a nutritionist that's on board and truly giving them what they need so they are not deficient. But the reality is, if your growing child is eating well and is a good athlete and getting the meals they need, they shouldn't have to embark on these diets. They really shouldn't. They should be able to eat normal high protein meals and not go on extreme diets. So good luck, and tell them just to really get the tools they need and make sure they're doing their homework and they're doing it correctly if they are going to do it. Okay, that looks like there's another athlete question coming in. Let's see. Travis says, hi, doctor. I've got another teen athlete question for you. What are good sources of protein for physically active teenagers? Great question. Why don't we take a look here? There are a few high protein sources that we get, or snacks that we can give our teenagers. So lean meats like chicken, turkey, and beef, fish, especially fatty fish like salmon or tuna, because it's rich in omega-3, which we mentioned before is very important for brain development, for memory, and for ocular health. Plant-based sources like beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, and quinoa, those are great sources of protein. And you can actually take quinoa, raw quinoa, and put it in your smoothies. You could put it in oatmeal and blend it. Lentils are great. You can have lentil soup or just put lentils as a replacement to other other meats and proteins. Dairy, of course, is a great source of protein, but cheese, yogurt, milk, and eggs are so important. I try to tell my teens, just boil a dozen eggs on the weekend and you'll have them for the week. Have 2 boiled eggs in the morning and hit the road to school. Number 5 is a protein-rich snack like Greek yogurt, protein bars, or even smoothies. So like I mentioned, with smoothies, you could add quinoa to your smoothie. Greek yogurt, you can put the granola on the Greek yogurt. Break up your protein bars and eat it with your Greek yogurt. But like I said, the boiled eggs, you have boiled eggs and some turkey bacon on the side, and there you go. That's a great protein-rich breakfast that'll last you through the day. So hope those little tips help for your teenager. Okay, so another question we have is coming in from Amira. Hey, Dr. Constant, should children take multivitamins if they're picky eaters? That's a great question, Amira. I get that question in the office all the time. You know, the fact that your child's a picky eater leads us to believe that maybe they're malnourished or vitamin deficient, and that's not necessarily the case. In a first world country like ours, whatever they are eating, they are getting the appropriate nutrients, they're getting the calories they need. They might not eat what we want when we want, but they are eating. So multivitamins are not necessarily indicated for a picky eater. It doesn't hurt if you give them, but you don't necessarily have to. If they're eating meals that you create for them, even if they're not exactly what you want, they are getting the adequate nutrition that they need. So it looks like we have another question coming in from Clancy. Hello, Dr. Constant. What impact does junk food have on teenagers' mood and academic performance? Clancy, that is an amazing question. And I'm glad you asked it because it is so important for us to watch our teenagers and watch what they're eating. I think that we feel that as they get older, they have a little more autonomy and, you know, they have money, they have cell phones, they go out with their friends and they can kind of choose their own foods and they eat their snacks, they eat junk food. And I feel that as parents, we're not as strict on them about their eating as we would be with a toddler. And we should be. Junk food has a very negative effect on our teenagers' moods. It absolutely contributes to this, cyclic mood that they have where they're going up and they're going down. Their sugar is high, then they have sugar lows, they have drops. They're ingesting caffeine now, which causes, a caffeine crash. They get headaches. It affects their attention span at school, which then in turn affects their mood because they're getting into trouble because they're either not paying attention or not turning in assignments. It has a very negative effect on their overall health. I see a lot of kids now with elevated cholesterol in the office, and they're under 15 years of age, and that is concerning. These are all things that, we need to treat our kids' entire body, their mental health, their physical health, their gut health, they're all related, and they all have effects on their mood and on their overall performance academically and their performance in sports. So if we could really try to pull back on the junk food and really monitor what our teens are eating, that would help them tremendously. If we could just make sure they're not eating potato chips and foods with dyes and drinking sodas loaded with caffeine and all the new high energy drinks that have tons of caffeine that affects their heart and gives them chest pain and tachycardia and abdominal pain, these things could really make a difference on our children. It could decrease the amount of absences at school due to headache and due to stomach ache or vomiting. It could help with their attention span, not getting into trouble as much. There are so many effects. So I would really just take a good hard look at what our kids are eating and still try to monitor, even if they are teenagers and even if they are older adolescents that are driving and have their own money. Maybe we need to talk to them about their choices and help them make the right decisions. Let's see if we have any other questions about picky eating. And we do from Blanche. Hi, doctor. What are the best strategies for introducing whole grains into a child's diet? Well, I'd say try to do it young, Blanche, because once they have the opportunity to say no and to reject, it's going to be pretty difficult. Starting off in the toddler years when you're introducing solids and you're introducing all of these new snacks, introducing whole grains at that time is really the best time so that it's a part of their life and they're used to it. And that would be by oatmeal, by quinoa, by oatmeal cookies even, baking with it, putting it in smoothies, offering it as a side. The yogurt, the Greek yogurt and granola snack is great. Kids love it and it's fun. And that would be a great introduction to whole grains. Introducing, of course, whole grain rice and whole grain bread, all of those things early on are really the best way to do it. Okay, it looks like we might have another question. Let's see. Cordelia, hey, Dr. Constant, my husband Malik and I suspect that our 2-year-old Olive developed hives a few weeks ago after eating some egg whites. How should we handle food allergies or intolerance in toddlers? Well, Cordelia, that's a great question, and that's very common. So usually when I teach my families how to introduce eggs, we suggest that you introduce the yolk first without the egg white. Why? Because the egg white is usually the most allergic part of the egg. So I would have my patients scramble up some yolk or just cook the yolk itself, feed it to their baby, and see if there's a reaction. And we do that for about 3 days. If there isn't a reaction and all goes well, then I say to give the entire egg with the white. If at that point you do see a reaction, of course you give Benadryl and then you don't try the egg again. Some people will suggest that you wait a little bit and then reintroduce egg. But in your case, where there was an actual histamine-related response, meaning there were hives and itching, would absolutely not give the egg again and contact your pediatrician. Now, what will we do in the office? We can actually draw blood and send for allergy testing and confirm whether or not your child is allergic to eggs. If there is a positive result, then we will not introduce eggs at all. We'll wait. And then usually by 2 years or 3, we'll try to reintroduce again. If the result is so high, is very high and seems dangerously high where your child might need an EpiPen, I would also refer you out to an allergist to confirm with skin testing in the office. And in the office, what they would do is take the protein extract of the egg and put it on your child's skin to see if they can get a histamine-related response, meaning hives, illicit hives. In that case, if it is confirmed there, again, we abstain from eggs and try again at age 2. And the allergist would follow your child closely so that we could just keep reintroducing later and see if maybe your child outgrows the allergy or if it is an actual lifetime allergy. So the take-home message is please do not give your child egg again. Contact your pediatrician so that they can come up with a plan to help you move forward and decide whether or not you're going to introduce eggs. Also, it's very important to know that there's a difference between eating egg or egg that's baked into a product. So all of that needs to be addressed in the office, but in the meantime, don't give your child eggs. Okay, it looks like those are all the questions we have for today. I hope that this was helpful. Good luck to all of you introducing solids and foods to your babies and toddlers. And good luck. If you have any other questions, please send them in and I'll answer them on the next segment. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Health Channel podcast. We hope this information has been useful. However, please remember that only your doctor can advise you about what is best for you. Do not start, modify, or suspend treatment based on anything you have heard on this podcast. Please join us again soon.